Have you ever felt a quiet sense of unease after hearing news about a virus connected to wildlife, even when nothing in your daily life has changed? One of my patients once shared with me that the word wildlife made her more anxious than the word virus, because it felt distant and hard to understand. I want you to imagine this for a moment, sitting comfortably at home, breathing normally, realizing that learning calmly can actually help your body feel safer. I am Dr. Evelyn Carter, and I have spent decades caring for older adults who value steadiness, routine, and peace of mind. When topics like viruses and animals appear in the news, it can feel unsettling, especially later in life when stability matters more than urgency. I want to gently reassure you that curiosity does not equal danger, and understanding does not mean something bad is approaching. Wildlife transmission is something scientists study quietly and carefully so that everyday life can remain calm and protected. This monitoring is not meant to alarm you. It exists to preserve dignity, routine, and emotional safety, especially for seniors whose bodies and minds respond best when information arrives slowly and with care. Here is the simple science. Some viruses live naturally in animals and almost never pass to humans. Health experts watch these patterns early, long before they affect daily life, so communities stay safer without disruption. For older adults, awareness becomes a form of self-respect rather than a source of fear. It allows you to stay grounded in what matters most: your health, your routines, and your sense of control. From my years working with dementia patients and their families, I have learned that the brain settles when it feels informed without pressure. This video is not a warning. It is a calm conversation, one meant to help you feel supported and steady. In the next part, we will gently explore what wildlife transmission really means and why it is monitored with such care. If this approach feels reassuring to you, please consider subscribing to Senior Health Daily, liking this video, and sharing it with someone who values calm and clear guidance. You are always welcome here. When we talk about wildlife transmission, I want to slow the conversation down and bring it back to something familiar and steady. In medicine, we rarely begin with dramatic words. We begin with meaning. Wildlife transmission simply describes how some viruses live naturally in animals and, in rare situations, may pass into humans under very specific conditions. It does not mean animals are dangerous. It means nature is complex, and our job as doctors is to understand patterns, not to create fear. Over the years, I have noticed that many seniors feel uneasy when animals are mentioned in health discussions. There is often an unspoken worry that something uncontrollable is nearby. I want to reassure you that animals are not villains in this story. They are part of balanced ecosystems that have existed long before modern medicine. Viruses can exist quietly in certain animals without causing illness, much like how many people carry bacteria in their bodies without ever becoming sick. This quiet coexistence is more common than most headlines suggest. Doctors think differently than news stories. We look for patterns over time. We study where viruses live, how often they change, and under what circumstances they might move between species. This is not a rush. It is careful observation. When we say wildlife transmission, we are describing a relationship that scientists monitor gently so communities can remain safe without disruption. For older adults, this perspective matters because the nervous system responds better when information feels grounded and complete. In my clinical practice, especially while caring for patients with memory changes or anxiety, I learned how powerful context can be. When people understand the full picture, their bodies relax. Breathing steadies. Thoughts become clearer. Wildlife transmission is not a sudden event. It is a process studied over years, sometimes decades, so that everyday life does not need to change. Some viruses never cross into humans at all. Others may do so only when environments are disrupted or when close contact occurs in very specific ways. This is why monitoring exists. It allows health systems to notice small changes early and respond calmly. Seniors are not expected to watch these patterns themselves. That responsibility belongs to trained professionals who work quietly in the background. Understanding wildlife transmission as a natural concept rather than a threat helps protect emotional safety. It reminds us that health science is built on patience, observation, and respect for both human dignity and the natural world. When we approach this topic gently, it becomes easier to stay grounded in daily routines and trust that careful work is already being done on your behalf. Daily routines are one of the kindest tools we have for understanding health changes, especially later in life. I do not mean strict schedules or rigid rules. I mean familiar rhythms that gently shape the day and give the body and mind a sense of steadiness. For many seniors, routine does more than organize time. It creates a quiet reference point that helps meaningful changes appear naturally, without worry or constant checking. When days follow a familiar flow, changes reveal themselves on their own. Waking around the same time, preparing meals in a usual way, taking a familiar walk, or settling into a favorite afternoon activity all create a calm baseline. Against that baseline, the body speaks more clearly. You may notice that energy feels lower for several days in a row, that balance feels slightly different during a regular walk, or that focus shifts during a task you normally enjoy. These observations arrive gently, without searching for symptoms or assuming the worst. In my clinical experience, seniors who keep steady routines often feel more in control of their health. They are not scanning their bodies hour by hour. They are living their lives. Because they are not constantly watching for problems, they tend to be more accurate when they do notice something different. The change feels real and grounded, not imagined or fueled by worry. Routine also protects emotional well-being. When the mind knows what to expect, it relaxes. Anxiety has less room to grow. This matters because worry alone can create physical sensations that feel alarming. Tension, restlessness, and fatigue often soften when daily rhythms are predictable. The aging body responds well to familiarity, especially when the nervous system feels safe. Another quiet benefit of routine is communication with doctors. When a senior can say this feels different from my usual day, it immediately gives us context. That comparison tells us far more than a list of isolated symptoms. It helps us understand whether a change is brief or persistent, mild or disruptive. Routine turns concern into clear information. For those living alone, routine supports independence and dignity. It builds confidence in daily abilities and reduces uncertainty. When routines are in place, health news feels less overwhelming because daily life remains stable. Caregivers often notice this too. Watching how a loved one moves through familiar activities can reveal more than direct questions. Changes in timing, participation, or enjoyment often speak softly but clearly. Routine does not mean ignoring change. It means giving change a calm frame. It allows awareness to unfold naturally, honoring the body's pace and supporting thoughtful decisions, one familiar day at a time. When we talk about how viruses move from animals to humans, I want to approach this with steadiness and proportion. In my years as a physician, I have learned that understanding conditions matters far more than imagining outcomes. These pathways are rare, specific, and carefully studied, and most people will never encounter them in their daily lives. Viruses that live in animals are part of natural ecosystems. They often remain in those animals without causing illness, sometimes for generations. For a virus to move from an animal to a human, several conditions usually need to line up at the same time. There may be close contact over a long period, changes in the environment, or disruptions that bring humans and animals into unusually close proximity. Even then, transmission is uncommon. The body has many layers of protection, and exposure does not automatically lead to illness. I often remind my patients that possibility is not the same as probability. Just because something can happen does not mean it is likely to happen to you. In clinical practice, we look at how often these events occur and under what circumstances. When we do that, a clearer picture emerges. These pathways exist, but they are narrow. They do not sit waiting in everyday life. For older adults, this distinction is especially important. The nervous system becomes more sensitive with age, and vague ideas can easily feel heavier than they need to be. When we focus on conditions rather than fear, the mind settles. You begin to see that daily routines like grocery shopping, gardening, or spending time outdoors do not place you at risk. Most people live their entire lives without ever encountering the specific situations scientists study in relation to animal to human transmission. In my work with seniors and caregivers, I have seen how reassurance grounded in facts restores confidence. Once people understand that these viruses do not move easily or casually, worry often fades. The body responds to that relief. Sleep improves, breathing slows, attention returns to what feels meaningful and familiar. It is also important to remember that public health systems exist to watch these rare pathways precisely so individuals do not have to. Scientists monitor animal populations, environments, and human health patterns quietly and continuously. Their goal is early awareness, not alarm. This work happens long before everyday life would ever need to change. When we understand that most people never encounter these pathways, we regain trust in our routines and surroundings. Awareness becomes calm knowledge rather than constant vigilance. That balance allows seniors to remain engaged in life while feeling protected, grounded, and respected. When we use the phrase animal reservoirs, it can sound technical or unsettling at first. I want to soften that language and bring it into something familiar. An animal reservoir simply means a place where a virus lives quietly without causing harm. It is not an active threat. It is more like a storage space in nature where something rests without disturbance. I often compare this to how our own bodies work. Many of us carry bacteria in our mouths or on our skin every day. These bacteria do not make us sick. They exist as part of a balanced system. In the same way, certain viruses can exist in animals without causing illness to the animal and without affecting people at all. This quiet coexistence is far more common than disease. In my years of caring for older adults, I have seen how fear often comes from imagining activity where there is none. An animal reservoir does not mean a virus is spreading. It means it is staying where it belongs. Most of the time, it remains there without change. This is why scientists study reservoirs patiently over long periods. They are watching for stability, not danger. Think of it like a library. A book can sit on a shelf for decades without being opened. Its presence does not mean it is being read or shared. In the same way, a virus in an animal reservoir can remain inactive in terms of human health. It exists, but it does not move. Understanding this helps the mind relax and allows the body to feel safer. Older adults often ask me if this means they should avoid animals or nature. The answer is no. Everyday contact with nature is not how these rare pathways occur. Animal reservoirs are usually found in very specific environments that most people never enter. Seniors enjoying gardens, parks, or time with pets are not interacting with these reservoirs in any meaningful way. This perspective is especially important for emotional well-being. When the brain understands that presence does not equal threat, anxiety loses its grip. The nervous system responds to reassurance with steadier breathing and clearer thinking. This calm supports memory, focus, and overall resilience. Public health professionals study animal reservoirs so they can protect communities quietly and respectfully. Their work means seniors do not need to change routines or live cautiously. It allows life to continue as it should, with dignity and ease. By understanding animal reservoirs as places of balance rather than danger, we replace fear with clarity. We learn that nature often holds things gently, and that careful observation exists to keep daily life calm. This knowledge supports trust in both the natural world and in the systems working quietly on your behalf. When people hear the term zoonotic disease, it can feel heavier than it needs to be. I want to slow that word down and bring it into plain, everyday language. Zoonotic simply means that a germ which usually lives in animals has the ability, in rare situations, to move into humans. That is the definition. It does not describe something that is happening around you. It does not describe a prediction. It describes a category scientists use to understand where an illness comes from. In my years of practice, I have seen how the mind can turn explanations into expectations without meaning to. A person hears how something works and suddenly feels as though it is about to happen to them. This is especially true for older adults who value stability and who may already feel more sensitive to health information. I want to reassure you that understanding how something can happen does not mean it will happen. Many common illnesses we have known about for decades are technically zoonotic. That does not mean people live in constant danger. It means science has traced their origins so doctors can respond wisely and calmly if needed. Knowing the origin of an illness helps public health systems prepare quietly and responsibly. It is not a signal for individuals to worry or change their daily lives. Think of it like knowing how a fire alarm works. Understanding the system does not mean a fire is coming. It means there is a plan in place so you can remain calm and protected. Zoonotic disease explanations serve the same purpose. They exist so experts can notice patterns early and reduce risk long before it would ever affect you. For seniors, this distinction protects emotional health. The aging brain responds best when information arrives with context and reassurance. When explanations are given gently, the nervous system stays settled. Thoughts remain clear. The body does not feel rushed or threatened. I often remind my patients that doctors and scientists explain possibilities so they can prevent problems, not predict them. Most zoonotic diseases never reach most people. Many are studied for years without ever becoming part of daily life. Monitoring and explanation are tools of care, not warnings. Understanding this helps you remain grounded in your routines and confident in your surroundings. You can appreciate the work happening quietly behind the scenes while continuing to live fully and peacefully. Explanation brings clarity. It does not demand fear. When we hold that truth, learning becomes something that supports dignity and calm rather than disrupting it. As we grow older, our relationship with uncertainty often changes. Many seniors tell me that health questions feel heavier now than they did years ago. This is not a weakness. It is a natural response shaped by experience, memory, and the desire to protect independence and dignity. After decades of living in a body that once felt predictable, even small unknowns can feel unsettling. From my years working closely with dementia patients and their families, I learned something important. The brain, especially the aging brain, seeks safety through clarity. When information feels incomplete or rushed, the mind fills the gaps on its own, and those imagined answers are often more frightening than reality. This is why health uncertainty can feel so uncomfortable for older adults. It is not the information itself, but the absence of clear context. Repetition plays a gentle and protective role here. In dementia care, we repeat information not because someone cannot understand, but because repetition builds reassurance. Hearing the same calm explanation more than once allows the brain to relax. Each repetition confirms that nothing new or threatening has appeared. Over time, this steadiness supports emotional balance and trust. I have seen patients settle visibly when explanations are given slowly and repeated without frustration. Breathing becomes easier, shoulders soften, attention returns. This response tells us something powerful. The aging brain responds best when it does not feel rushed to keep up. It needs time to place new information into a familiar framework. Health news often arrives quickly and without that framework. Headlines change daily. Terms shift. Details are incomplete. For older adults, this creates a sense of instability. The brain cannot anchor itself, and anxiety fills the space. Clarity, offered patiently and consistently, restores that anchor. In caregiving, we learn that calm repetition is not condescending. It is respectful. It honors the brain's need for safety and continuity. The same principle applies when discussing viruses or public health topics. When explanations are consistent, fear loses its hold. This sensitivity to uncertainty also reflects wisdom. Seniors have lived long enough to know that health matters. Wanting clear answers is a sign of care, not fragility. By providing steady explanations and returning to the same grounding truths, we protect emotional health and cognitive stability. When clarity and repetition are present, older adults regain confidence. They feel oriented rather than overwhelmed. This allows them to stay engaged in life, trust their routines, and respond to health information with calm awareness instead of worry. Staying informed without carrying worry is one of the most important skills we can develop as we age. Information itself is not the problem. The way it enters the body and mind is what matters. Over the years, I have watched many seniors struggle not because they learned too much, but because they learned too quickly or without enough reassurance. Knowledge should feel like a light being turned on, not a weight being placed on the chest. In caregiving, especially dementia care, we learn to offer information in a way that feels safe. We speak slowly. We pause. We check for understanding. We allow the nervous system time to settle before moving forward. This same approach applies to public health topics. When information arrives gently and in context, the brain can absorb it without becoming overwhelmed. I often tell my patients that you do not need to carry the responsibility of the world's health on your shoulders. That is not your job. Your role is to stay present in your own life, notice how your body feels, and maintain the routines that support your well-being. Public health systems exist so that individuals do not have to stay on constant alert. Experts monitor patterns quietly and carefully so you can focus on living. When seniors feel informed in this calm way, something beautiful happens. They stop scanning their bodies for signs of trouble. They return their attention to daily pleasures and familiar rhythms. Sleep improves. Appetite steadies. The body recognizes that it is not under threat. This is how understanding becomes protective rather than stressful. I have also learned that staying informed works best when it happens within a trusted relationship. That trust allows information to land softly. It creates a sense of companionship rather than isolation. This is why conversations like this matter. They remind you that you are not alone in trying to make sense of health topics. I'm Dr. Evelyn Carter from Senior Health Daily. If this video has helped you better understand your health, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing Senior Health Daily. Your support truly encourages us to continue creating calm, helpful, and trustworthy health content made especially for you. When you choose information that respects your pace and dignity, you protect both your emotional and physical health. Staying informed does not require constant attention. It requires thoughtful attention. By allowing learning to happen gently, you keep worry from taking root and make space for confidence and calm. This balance is something you deserve. It honors the wisdom of your years and the needs of your body. In this space, information serves you rather than overwhelms you, and awareness becomes a steady companion rather than a burden. When people hear that health authorities are monitoring a virus, it can sound serious or urgent. I want to gently reframe that idea. Monitoring in public health is not an alarm. It is quiet preparation. It is the careful work that happens so most people never feel a disruption in their daily lives. In medicine, preparation is a sign of respect. It means we value stability enough to protect it in advance. Public health monitoring works the same way. Scientists observe patterns over long periods of time. They look at how often something appears, where it appears, and whether it is changing. Most of what they see never leads to action because stability is the most common outcome. Monitoring allows that stability to be confirmed. Proportion matters here. Many viruses are monitored globally, yet only a very small number ever affect everyday life. The presence of monitoring does not mean something is spreading or that people are at risk. It means experts are doing their job, so individuals do not have to carry that responsibility themselves. For older adults, this distinction helps the nervous system stay calm. In my clinical experience, reassurance works best when it is grounded in scale. When seniors understand that monitoring is routine and widespread, fear often softens. The brain stops treating the information as a personal warning. Instead, it recognizes it as background care. much like regular maintenance on a bridge you cross every day without thinking about it. Public health professionals are trained to notice early changes precisely so responses can remain calm and measured. This approach prevents panic and protects communities quietly. It also means that by the time information reaches the public, it has already been carefully evaluated. Seniors are not expected to interpret raw data or respond to shifting details. That work has already been done. I often remind patients that if monitoring ever required personal action, guidance would be clear, specific, and supportive. It would not arrive through vague messages or alarming language. Until then, monitoring exists so daily routines can continue uninterrupted. Understanding public health monitoring as preparation rather than alarm allows older adults to feel respected and protected. It reinforces trust in systems designed to support stability. This perspective helps you stay engaged in your life, confident that quiet work is happening on your behalf, and that your role is simply to continue caring for yourself with patience and dignity. Emotional safety and brain health are deeply connected, especially as we grow older. I have seen this connection countless times in my work with seniors and with families caring for loved ones with memory changes. When the brain feels safe, it functions more clearly. When it feels rushed or threatened, even good information can feel overwhelming. Calm information protects cognitive stability in a very real way. The brain processes new ideas through the nervous system first. If the nervous system is tense, the brain shifts into a state of alert rather than understanding. In that state, memory becomes less reliable, attention narrows, and small details feel heavier than they should. This is not a failure of the brain. It is a protective response. When information is shared gently, the opposite happens. Breathing slows, muscles relax. The mind becomes more open. In dementia care, we rely on this principle every day. We know that tone matters as much as content. A calm voice and steady pacing allow the brain to stay engaged instead of defensive. The same principle applies when discussing health topics like viruses or public monitoring. I often tell my patients that the brain does not like surprises. It prefers context and reassurance. When information arrives slowly and with explanation, the brain has time to place it in the right mental space. This protects cognitive stability. It reduces mental fatigue and supports clearer thinking over time. Emotional safety also supports memory. Anxiety can interfere with the brain's ability to store and retrieve information. When seniors feel worried, they may forget what they have just learned, or replay it repeatedly without clarity. When they feel safe, understanding settles more easily. The information becomes part of knowledge rather than a source of concern. Routine plays a supporting role here as well. When learning happens within a familiar rhythm, such as watching a trusted program or listening at the same time of day, the brain feels anchored. This consistency helps protect against confusion and overload. It allows learning to feel like a natural extension of daily life, rather than an interruption. From years of caregiving experience, I have learned that emotional safety is not a luxury. It is a foundation. It supports dignity, independence, and confidence. Calm information respects that foundation. It allows seniors to remain curious without becoming unsettled. When we protect emotional safety, we protect the brain's ability to adapt and stay resilient. Knowledge becomes something that strengthens rather than destabilizes. This is why the way we talk about health matters just as much as what we say. Calm understanding supports a steady mind, and a steady mind supports a healthier life. In dementia caregiving, one of the earliest lessons we learn is that speed can unintentionally take away confidence. When information comes too quickly, even familiar ideas can feel confusing. When we slow down, the opposite happens. Understanding has time to settle, and confidence begins to grow. This lesson applies just as clearly to how older adults receive public health news. Public health information often arrives in short bursts. A headline appears, a term is repeated. A new detail follows before the last one has been fully understood. For an aging brain, this pace can feel disorienting. In dementia care, we never move forward until the person feels oriented in the present moment. We pause. We repeat. We check for comfort. When this approach is used with public health topics, the brain responds with steadiness rather than alarm. Slowing down gives the mind space to organize information. The aging brain may take a little longer to sort new ideas, especially when they relate to health or safety. This is not a weakness. It is a natural change that deserves respect. When information is delivered calmly and without urgency, the brain can place it where it belongs. Instead of feeling like a warning, it becomes part of understanding. I have seen how this builds confidence in dementia care. When caregivers speak slowly and return to the same reassuring explanations, the person listening begins to trust their own understanding. They stop asking the same question out of anxiety and begin to feel settled. The same thing happens with public health news. When seniors hear consistent messages delivered patiently, they trust themselves again. Another lesson from dementia caregiving is the importance of familiarity. Information shared by a trusted voice feels safer. Over time, that trust allows seniors to listen without bracing themselves. This is why calm, ongoing conversations are more effective than sudden updates. Familiarity lowers resistance and supports clarity. Slowing down also keeps attention grounded in the present. In dementia care, we gently redirect focus to what is happening right now. This reduces fear about what might happen later. Public health news benefits from the same grounding. When seniors understand that monitoring and preparation are long-term processes, not immediate threats, their bodies relax. Confidence grows when seniors feel respected. Taking time with information shows respect for their pace and experience. It communicates that understanding matters more than speed. By applying the lessons of dementia caregiving to public health news, we protect emotional safety and cognitive stability. Slowing down transforms information into reassurance and allows confidence to take root quietly and naturally. When we step back and look at what public health monitoring truly protects, the answer is not fear or control. It protects the quiet foundations of daily life that matter most as we age. Routine, dignity, community trust, and peace of mind are at the center of this work, even when it is not spoken about directly. Monitoring allows routines to remain intact. It exists so seniors can wake up, prepare meals, take walks, and rest without disruption. When experts quietly observe patterns and changes, they do so to prevent sudden interruptions to everyday life. This steady background work means that most days remain just that, ordinary and familiar. For the aging brain, this consistency is deeply protective. Dignity is another important part of what monitoring safeguards. Older adults deserve to live without feeling constantly on edge or responsible for tracking complex health threats. Public health systems are designed so individuals do not have to carry that burden. By managing information carefully and proportionally, monitoring respects the dignity of seniors and allows them to focus on living rather than worrying. Community trust grows from this quiet approach. When monitoring is steady and measured, people learn to trust that systems are working thoughtfully on their behalf. Trust reduces fear. It allows information to be received calmly when needed and ignored when it is not. In my experience, seniors who trust the process feel less anxious about health news and more confident in their surroundings. Peace of mind may be the most valuable protection of all. Worry can wear down the body over time. It affects sleep, memory, and emotional balance. Monitoring exists to reduce unnecessary worry, not to increase it. When done well, it reassures communities that attention is being paid so individuals can rest. From years of caregiving, especially with those living with memory changes, I have seen how much peace of mind supports health. When people feel safe, their bodies respond with steadier breathing, clearer thinking, and better resilience. Monitoring supports that sense of safety by keeping potential concerns in the background where they belong. Ultimately, public health monitoring is an act of care. It protects the rhythm of daily life, honors personal dignity, strengthens trust, and preserves peace of mind. For seniors, these protections matter more than any headline. They allow life to continue with calm, purpose, and confidence, knowing that careful attention is already in place, quietly and respectfully on your behalf. Thank you for staying with me through this conversation and for giving yourself the time to listen. That choice alone is an act of care. Understanding does not mean you are facing danger. It means thoughtful work is happening quietly so you can continue living your life with calm and confidence. After many years caring for older adults, I have learned a simple truth. The aging brain thrives when it feels respected, unhurried, and informed without pressure. When information arrives gently, the nervous system softens, breathing slows. Thoughts become clearer. Knowledge is meant to bring steadiness, not tension. It should feel like reassurance settling in, not something you have to carry. You have heard today how monitoring and preparation exist to protect routine and dignity. They are there so you do not have to watch constantly or worry about what might happen next. Your role is not to stay alert. Your role is to rest into the rhythms that support your health, the familiar mornings, the steady meals, the moments of quiet that let your body feel safe. If at any point health information feels overwhelming, I want you to remember that you do not have to sort through it alone. Senior Health Daily is a steady place you can return to whenever you need calm guidance and clear understanding. There is no urgency here and no pressure to decide anything today. For now, allow yourself to rest. There is nothing to fix and nothing to solve. Just reassurance, dignity, and companionship as you continue forward. I'm grateful you are here, and I look forward to walking alongside you again on Senior Health Daily.